Hey, everybody. I didn't want to make this one part of the series. I just want to check in, fill in on a few personal things, and then I got something else I want to do with this video. But we'll get to that. Um, I just got home a little while ago from the board meeting at the church. It was my first time going to that. I was invited, yesterday when I went to church. Um, and all I can do is repeat what I said yesterday. It's amazing the difference of being around the right people. I love being involved. I love being, thought of. And it's so funny because, again, I've only known these people like a couple months. Like, when the breakup happened, I started going to that church. They barely know me. And they're interested, in hearing what I have to say in the meeting, in the Bible study. And then I have people that I was around for years that wouldn't listen no matter how hard I spoke. So, again, it really goes to what I was saying in the series video I made the other day about be very aware of who you surround yourself with, you know. Um, if the people around you don't treat you with any value, you're going to feel like you have no value. And then you're going to start living that way. That was the trap that I fell into. You know, my ex, my old friend, everybody has this binary thinking, this black and white thinking. It's one way or the other. Very worldly thinkers. And they wrote me off because of, my situations. Like, I have several that life really kind of targets me. I don't say that as a pity party, that's just a fact. And that's the great thing about it is I've overcome all that. You know what I mean? I've risen above things that most people couldn't even handle individually, and I have it as part of a set. Not to say, I'm sure there's people out there that have it way worse than me. I'm not trying to say, anything like that. It's just, that's the power of getting in your own head and fixing, the issues that you come across. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is it makes you stronger as a person by taking the time to go in and do the work. It makes you more resilient. So it's definitely worth it. But yeah, I feel like I'm involved in something, bigger than myself for the first time in a long time. And it when I was sitting there in that meeting, there was a few minutes of where the thought hit my head, like just the contrast in my life in the last few months. How much of a different person I really am from what I used to be. I don't shrink anymore. I don't tolerate things that I used to tolerate. I don't accept people, treating me any kind of way. People treat me disrespectfully. I don't have to get loud. I don't have to get mean. But the minute I sense disrespect, that'll be our last conversation. There's no need for the way a lot of people treat each other in this world, and we don't have to accept it. We don't. And I refuse to. I am better than that, and I know I am better than that. And I refuse to accept that in my life. One of the big things that I think why it sticks in my head is my last relationship is why I it stays there is because, again, she did stuff to me that I would never do to my worst enemy, let alone somebody I claim to love. And I'm not meant to understand that because that's not who I am. I can understand the feelings behind it because I understand, how people work and internally, well, at least myself anyway. But I can't make sense of all of it because, again, that's just, I'm not that type of person. I don't want to control people. I want to help people. And I don't like being controlled either. Anyway, so that's the update on the personal life because it's been a little bit since I did one of those. I'm slowly getting over Again, there's still some of that anger still around, but even that's fizzling out. You know, I talked about it in the last video. Like, I think part of it, well, no, I know part of it is because I know once I let that anger go, that's it. That's all that's left. And once I let that, you know, let go of it fully, that's the end. That's, there's, you know, I'm almost there. I'm almost ready. I'm slowly releasing it. Anyway, this is going to be a little different. I have decided that even though I'm not done yet, I still have a lot of work to do. I'm going to give you guys the grand tour, see what I've been working on. I wish I got before and after pictures. All I could show you is the after. But I've been really busy out here the last couple months. This place has changed a lot around me, and it's not much. It's, you know, just a simple garage where I'm staying at. But I use it as like my break room, like where I go to get away and, you know, do my thing when I take a break from, you know, caretaking. And it used to be, you know, I used to call it, well, lately I've called it my old den of iniquity. You know, it was my, you know, love nest for privacy, where I would come to, you know, smoke and hang around those derelict friends I used to keep. I used to come out here to, like, do nothing. Like, not really getting... I mean, yeah, there was always a woodworking section because I like woodworking, but I very rarely got a lot of things done out here. And that has changed a lot. And I've broken things down into sections, and I've still got more to add, but, yeah. How do I want to do this? I'll flip this around. Alright. So, I've already shown pictures of the Bible study area, but I'm very happy with this. It's just a nice little nook section. You know, comfortable seating. All the books and study materials around. The top two shelves are nothing but different versions of the Bible. The third shelf is Bible information. The bottom shelf is box sets, which one of them is in my bag because we're doing spiritual warfare in our next Bible study. That's why there's that gap down there. Here's the refreshment counter. You know, I keep a couple snacks handy. Got a coffee pot. You know, especially in the winter when I'm doing projects out here. It's great to warm up. And then we come to the woodworking section, which this is one of the things I'm still kind of trying to reorganize the space. Just today, I cleared off this workbench area that I made for myself. It was piled up. Still got some work to do on it, but it is definitely coming along. Over here is the old storage section, which is the bane of my existence right now. I'm going through it. I'm throwing out stuff I don't need. I'm shrinking it down because when I'm done, this area right here is going to get this desk, and that's going to be my writing area. You know, where I write out different, you know, Bible studies for other uses. Because one thing I've always wanted, you know, I always have is a writing section. I've been a writer most of my life. I wrote my first book when I was like 12. So, I also did my first sermon. Yeah, my first sermon was around that age too, with a youth group at the church. And then under the writing area is going to be where I keep, right now it's up out of the way, but I have just various fitness equipment, again, that I try to use to take care of myself, get myself in a better place than I am, health-wise. But yeah, as you can see, you know, I'm not, you know, in the wintertime there was plastic everywhere. I actually had this divided into 3 rooms Ooh, I didn't show off one of my... I'll go this way for that. One of my favorite additions is the ceiling fan. I'll tell you what, that thing is small but mighty. It does a world of difference. And then you can see behind it, I'm a master of redneck engineering. That is a drop piece. You know how I was just saying in the winter, I would separate it into 3 rooms. Well, that's an actual, you know, I can raise and lower that and drop down and separate that whole section. And that's one of the things, you know, I was thinking about earlier today too, is one of the great things about being in so much solitude lately is I don't have to accommodate for anybody. You know, I used to make this space someplace that others could be comfortable, you know, and I made the mistake of letting them take over my space when they came over. And I would do all kinds of, like you'd see, I get great ideas. I mean, it's totally redneck engineering, but I get some good ideas for how to make things work. And I would bend over backwards. You know, if somebody came over and commented like one thing like, oh, it'd be nicer if we could do this, or, you know, it'd be great if we could do this, or, hey, we had a problem with this. You know, I will sit there and rack my brain and think about it and find a way to change it. Again, all this internal work came from a lifetime of doing the external work. Of, hey, I want to make this work. How do I make this work? And I figure it out and I do it. That's one of my gifts, you know. And that's what I told them at the meeting tonight. You know, they were trying to find mission ideas, and I have the seeds for a couple, but I'm not sure yet. So I have to do some research online. But I told them at the next meeting I would definitely have some ideas to give them. Tonight I wasn't really prepared because I didn't know what I was walking into. But yeah, I know better for the next meetings, and I do very much like being involved. Although the thought did occur to me, I'm kind of wrestling with now, is I very much want to be part of this church. I love the atmosphere. I love the people. The problem is once this position is over, that you know, the caretaking, you know, once that's finished, I won't be around here anymore, and where I don't drive anymore, which really, you know, I again, one of the things came up in the meeting. I said I miss the freedom, but that's about it. I do not miss driving. You know, we were talking about how people drive crazy and going around you when you're already doing speed limit and stuff like that. Like, I do not miss that. Not at all. I don't miss having to pay for like 50 different things to just keep one measly vehicle on the road. Bullshit. You know, anything they can do to trip you up and take your hard-earned money, they'll friggin' do. And people keep allowing it, so that's why it keeps happening. Anywho, before I get too far sidetracked. But yeah, that's my space. Again, I know it's not much, but it's comfortable for me, and it lets me get the stuff done that I want to do, that I want to focus on. You know, I've already had a couple friends come over, and they, you know, for Bible study, and they really liked it, you know, the layout. And back when they came, that whole back section was all messed up. They haven't been back here since I finished the straightening up. Well, I'm not finished, but I've still got to reduce the storage section so I can put in the writing and workout section. Well, actually, the workout section is right in the middle of the floor there, but you know what I mean, where I tuck the equipment to keep it out of the way. But yeah, that's what I've been up to the last couple months. Just keep myself busy and trying to get my life together. You know, I just wasted a lot of time in my life. I had a lot more things when I walked into certain situations than I will have walking out of them. And that's not just the relationship, that's several other things too. I'll figure it out. I always do. You know, I had a plan. You know, a couple months ago, I tried to explain to her I had a plan for the next year. And a few of those things changed now that that relationship is over. Because there was stuff that I was going to worry about that I don't need to now. I'm not going to bend over backwards, you know, to accommodate for somebody who can't even give me basic decency. You know? That's really all I ask for, is to communicate with me and show some respect, and I could get neither of those. You know, anytime I asked for a conversation, I got ghosted. Like, literal ghosted. Like, we are adults. And, of course, that's my own fault because I kept allowing it. Like I said, the fifth time was the charm. You only get to walk away from me so many times, and then when you come back, I won't be there. And again, I'm hard-headed. You know, we talk about that a lot. It takes me a little while. But yeah, I finally got pushed to the point where it made sense. And just because a chapter of my life has ended doesn't mean my whole life has ended. Now it's time. You know, I've been in this cocoon phase. I've been in my hermit mode, you know, some people call it, where I've been building, healing, doing my thing. And now it's time to branch out. Now it's time to start life anew. I mean, that's one of the silver linings of everything going on. It's a fresh start. I've got a whole new beginning. And that's great. I'm excited about that. You know, as mopey as I've been, there's still things to look forward to. And as time goes on, once I, you know, fully let go of everything, now that I know that, you know, all that time was a lie, like all of it was just utter bullshit, like there was no intention behind it to make it real. You know, that's part of what's frustrating me, but it's also one of the things that makes it easier to let go. Because I know no matter what I would have done, that relationship would have never been what I saw that it could be. It would never be what I wanted it to be. But she would make sure she got what she wanted. Well, she can get that with somebody else, because what she wants is not what I want. And I refuse to put my time, energy, thought, focus, whatever, into stuff like that anymore. Again, she was way more worldly. I'm more, you know, spiritual. I'm more internal. I'm more, you know, thinking of the thought process, deep thoughts. You know, I don't need a lot to make me happy. I really don't. You know, stuff is stuff. Yeah, it's nice to have some stuff, but you don't have to. And if more people could realize that, we'd be in a better bargaining position, you know, with the people that are running the place. But unfortunately, you know, consumerism has taken over, and they can control us by what we will and won't live without. And again, that goes back to my video the other day about principles. You know, if you don't have principle, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And that is absolutely true. So get to know yourself. Be firm. Be positive about who you are. Be sure about it. That way, when somebody comes and tries to tell you who you are, you can correct them with certainty. Don't let people gaslight you and manipulate you and questioning yourself. No. I mean, don't get me wrong. You have to be aware. Again, this is discernment. This is that, you got to get out of that binary thinking, that black and white thinking. You don't get hard-headed and say, hey, I refuse to change. But you say, I'm only going to change what needs to change. I'm not going to change what the world wants me to change. I'm going to change what needs to change. And that's another thing that I don't think a lot of people understand about, you know, this process I've been going through, this transformation. You know, again, I originally did it to try and impress a girl, you know? And I was going to waste a lot of time doing things that I did not care about. And now that's off the table, and that's great. Now I can really focus on the things that I want to. Things I know that'll create a future for me. You know? Even in my solitude, there's things I can do. Again, just because part of my life ended, not all of it did. And I'm rebuilding my strength so I can do that, so I can hit that restart button. Because that's what I need to do. Yeah. Anyway, this one's a little longer than I wanted it to be. I always am. You know, you guys know me by now. I'm long-winded and I go over time. But hopefully it's some good stuff. Hopefully people are, you know, getting something out of all this. I mean, I know a couple people are because I did get some feedback, but I hope that grows. Again, not because I want the attention, but because I want to help. Like, that is my thing. You know, I'm here to help. There's no ulterior motive. I'm not looking for anything. Well, let me correct that, because there is an ulterior motive. I want to be at peace. You know, I want to be happy with my existence. And it's not going to happen living like I have been, living the way the world is now. It's just not going to happen. You know, so that is the ulterior motive. You know, if more people, you know, go through the process and wake up, then we can make change. And we can make the world a better place. You know, that's not a pipe dream. That's not a fan. You know, people hear other people say, hey, let's, you know, fix the world. And they roll their eyes like, it's the only place we got to live in, folks. And right now it's a shithole. And it shouldn't be. We need to fix it. We can't be sitting here waiting for somebody else to fix it because they're not doing the job. I mean, no matter how you look at it, they're not doing the job. So it's up to us. But we can't do that if we don't get our shit together. And that's about all I can tell you about it. Like, those are the facts. That's just how it works. You know, if everybody wants to sit here and be shallow and not think any deeper than, you know, basic desires, then we're screwed. We are really, you know, going to be our own end. But if enough people wake up and make changes, we can make it better. Like, people could actually be happy again. How wild is that idea? And I don't mean a handful, you know, the people that get to screw everybody, you know, that 1% that gets to be happy. Yeah, screw them. It's time we switch that dynamic. The 1% can be miserable and the rest of us can be happy for a little while. We could do it. We just got to get our shit together. And that's why I'm 50-50 on if it'll ever happen. Because I understand the plan can work, but I'm losing my faith in humanity to be able to come together. If I'm being honest. People would rather, you know, this whole breakup, it was all about her pride and ego. You know, I didn't say, no, don't do these things. I said, have a conversation with me about these things. And the response was ghosting. Again, I just turned 45 the other day. We are not in high school. You know, but at least I got to see who I was really dealing with. Now I can go find a grown-up. You know? And that's what I need. I need somebody who's more on that level. Anywho, rambling again. Sorry about that. But again, everything's starting to work more. You know, I'm coming back to myself. I noticed that tonight at the meeting. You know, I was thinking about ideas. It's been a while since I went down a rabbit hole of ideas like that. Like trying to think of, you know, mission ideas. And that's great. You know, that was a great sign to me. That means I'm definitely coming back to myself. You know, and I'm new and improved. So, best of both worlds. You know, the good parts of the old me, and then the new skills of the new me. Fantastic. It's all coming together. I'm a lot more content now than I was. Which is ironic because back then I thought if I was a people pleaser making others happy, it would make me happy, and it didn't. It made me miserable. And now that I don't have to think of anybody else, well, that's not true. I do have to think of other people, because I was going to say that kind of flips, but now I think about the right people. Now I think about the people that appreciate me thinking about them. You know what I mean? And it makes all the difference in the world. Surround yourself with the right people. If you do not feel like doing anything, if you feel stagnant, look at the people hanging around you. Now, don't get me wrong, don't automatically blame them, because it could be internal. It could be you. But if you know it's internally not you, start looking at the crowd you're hanging around and then start changing it. Start fixing it. It's the best advice I can give anybody. But all right, we're pushing this close to half an hour, so I'm going to let it go. As usual, take care of yourself. Try and take care of each other. I'll see you in the next one.